Gran Turismo was this close to being a disaster of a film. The first two acts ridiculed with speed bumps and twists and turns that it felt like they could not keep up with, but somehow, some way, they managed to pull me right back in as soon as we hit that third act. Hello there and welcome back to the channel. My name is Aiden H Talks. I rank, review, and react to all types of movie media, and today we are doing a review of Gran Turismo based on a true story. Gran Turismo is rated PG-13, 2023 release, action adventure, 2 hours and 15 minutes, 60% critic score, and a whopping 98% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, obviously, we have seen the multiple trailers that played before every single movie that has come out in the past 5 months of Gran Turismo. Now, this trailer has been getting on my nerves every single time I've watched it.
You can hate me now.
It's not gonna work.
But I still held out hope for the movie because, you know, I love me some biopics. And this one seems like a really creative and fun story. Now, I did also say, if this was not based on a true story, this would be the goofiest movie that I feel like anyone could have made. But let me tell you, it is saved by that based on a true story. If this was not based on a true story, I would not have had as much fun as I did. But I feel like that really helps the movie out, so I can't really blame them for pushing that as much as they did. Now, in my opening statement, I said this movie was almost a disaster of a film, and I truly stand by that. These first two acts are ridiculed with bad acting performances, really bad dialogue. I mean, there's a moment when our main character passes up the villain of this movie, and the villain says, "Nerf that gamer. I'm gonna nerf you, gamer." What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, nobody says that. Nobody uses that term in real life. I don't feel like there was a need for that to be in the movie. And there's multiple instances of that. It's not just that one piece of dialogue. So there are moments in the first two acts where this movie is really goofy. And it's not even just the bad dialogue. There are some performances in those first two acts that just aren't great. I mean, the actor that plays Jan's father, forgive me if I mispronounce his name, Jimon Hansu? I'm so sorry if I totally messed that up. He was in the first Guardians movie, and I will have a picture of him right here. There's some moments where it just did not work for me. Their chemistry, I did not take them as father and son. I truly didn't. And even the actor that plays Jan's brother in this movie, Daniel Puig, I'm so sorry if I keep messing up these names. He plays Cody Martinborough in this movie. It's just those weird tropes of like the dad not supporting what the son is doing, but fully supporting the brother because the brother is doing what the dad has always dreamed of. It is really bad. And so it just makes for a lot of awkward moments that weren't hitting at all for me. And not only that, but the editing was bad as well. There's a moment where Jan's father is talking to him and Jan tells him, "I thought you would always support this dream of mine, even if it wasn't your dream." And then we cut to Jan's father, and for a split second, like, they don't even let you sit in the moment. Jan's father looks at him and turns away and walks off, and then it cuts to Jan. He's looking up at his father, he looks down, and then it cuts away. It's just a lot of choppy editing, especially in those action sequences. It is a lot of bad editing that kind of takes you out of the movie, and that's a lot of what these first two acts are. Now, the story is still very interesting. It's still crazy that this video game player went to racing and absolutely crushed it along with his gaming buddies. It's a very cool premise, and that's why I say it's shocking that this actually happened. It's really impressive. But in terms of movie making, in terms of a biopic, those first two acts don't work at all. There was a lot of moments where I was looking at my girlfriend and we were laughing at some of the dialogue. We were laughing at some of the things happening. And she even told me after the movie that she wanted to walk out, that she did not want to watch it anymore. Now, I won't say it's that terrible. I won't say that this movie is just so horrible that you shouldn't even watch it because of what I'm going to get to here in a bit. But it definitely isn't anything that will blow your mind. It is filled with tropes. It is very goofy. But then we hit a moment where the entire tone of the film changes and we get those emotional moments. We get to sit in those moments and feel something for that entire third act. The stakes are raised by 1,000, and those relationships that we kind of touched on and built on a little bit in those first two acts are elevated so much more. More specifically, David Harbour's character, who is kind of the trainer of the character of Jan in this film. There's a moment in this that is so jaw-droppingly gorgeous that I sat there and I turned to my girlfriend and I said, why couldn't we get this the entire film? Where was this? Where was this emotion? Where was this relationship the entire film?
I'm not sure if I can do this.
Most people can't. I got a feeling you're not most people.
And that's where the movie kind of turns it on. There's a moment where everything just kind of changes, everything switches, everything becomes more serious and more emotional. And from there on out, that entire third act, it is genuinely a perfect movie. I had no problems with it whatsoever. Now, I mentioned Jan's father earlier, the actor Jimon. He comes in and there's a moment that he shares with his son that genuinely had me crying. And now I'm sitting there wondering, how did I go from laughing at how bad this was to crying over this relationship? Now, granted, in those moments, there is still some movie making aspects where the director doesn't trust the audience to pick up on some things. It doesn't trust the audience to pick up on callbacks. So while you're having this emotional moment, it's cutting to a flashback saying, hey, look, this is what they're talking about. And it doesn't feel like they trust you to pick up on that. So those moments kind of did take me out just a bit, but still, I can't help but praise how well they did everything in that third act. The action sequences are that much better. The stakes are raised so much to the point where I was shaking, hoping that Jan would pull through, hoping that this team of gamers that have been looked down upon would pull through. And the tension is built perfectly. The stakes are noticeable. It is all genuinely such a fun time. And then we hit the end of the movie and we have what every biopic does, where they show the actual person that the story's based on. They show their actual family and they show footage of all the events that we saw in real life. So I walked out of the theater feeling very disappointed. I was genuinely sad that the entire movie wasn't as great as the third act was. And for a lot of people, and honestly myself for just a bit, you could look at that third act and be like, man, that was great. This movie was awesome. But how bad those first two acts were really brings the score down for me. I just can't seem to forgive it just based on how great you finish the movie off. So with that being said, my final rating of Gran Turismo is a 70 out of 100. And honestly, if it weren't for how great that third act was, and I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but if it wasn't for that, this film would honestly be like in the 40s or 50s. That's how bad it was for a little bit. And Gran Turismo also falls as my 36th favorite movie of 2023 so far. Let me know what you thought about Gran Turismo. Do you agree more with the audience score at a 98%? Or do you agree more with the critics? Or do you fall right in the middle, such as myself? Let me know in the comments down below. And without further ado, that's my review of Gran Turismo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.